How artificial intelligence can be applied to sales optimization? And how far can we go with dynamic pricing? What ChatGPT can bring to the table in this context? And is artificial intelligence application in business reserved only to large enterprises? Following is my conversation with Ulrich Bodenhofer, professor at the University of Applied Sciences, Upper-Austria, and Chief AI Officer at Quomatic, a company specializing in sales optimization. Enjoy. Let's start with quite a broad question. How does AI influence sales process optimization in general?
Okay, so the sales process, I think, is a very complicated thing, and it requires a lot of high-level decision making. And high-level decision making is something that you can do quite well, not necessarily with artificial intelligence only, but with the help of artificial intelligence. I'm not necessarily of the opinion that a complicated sales process can be fully automated, but I think that the aid, the support of an artificial intelligence-based system can be really helpful and will be crucial in the future in the sales process. I am not only a professor at the University of Applied Sciences, Upper-Austria in Hagenberg.
You're a business person as well.
I wouldn't say I'm a business person. I'm part-time affiliated with a company that I'm also 10% co-owner. And this company is particularly focusing on artificial intelligence support for sales, or to mention a buzzword, AI-based sales analytics. Yeah, and we have developed several use cases, all of which we are convinced of that they are helpful to salespeople. The first thing is sales forecasting. I think if you have products, the sales of which aren't constant, but have dependencies of the economic situation, have dependencies of the season, and many other influencing factors, then to have a sales model, to have a machine learning model, an artificial intelligence model that helps to predict the future demand, like the demand for a certain machinery part in the next 6 months, more accurately and more objectively than a human could do that. That will be of great help to salespeople and also to people who manage stocks and stuff. That's one notorious use case where artificial intelligence can help. Another use case that is, in our opinion, very, very promising is lead finding with different methods, but also lead scoring, or next step in the sales funnel, what we call opportunity scoring. That's currently the best developed and the most crucial use case that we have in our company. So let me try to explain that a little bit better. By an opportunity,
yes, this is very interesting. You rarely hear about
yes,
this in the context of AI.
By an opportunity, we mean a specific offer in the form of a written quote that a salesperson makes or a company makes to a customer. Doesn't matter whether in the B2B or in the B2C context, but it's where you have individualized quotes, offers that you give to your customers. And the customer eventually decides in favor of the quote, and means the customer orders what has been offered, or the customer decides not to buy that offer. Okay, I can give you an example. We have started this use case with the Austrian leading manufacturer of windows and doors. Okay, this manufacturer is actually a very large and very prominent company, and with quite a large market share. And instead of producing windows and doors of fixed sizes on stock, this manufacturer produces on a per order basis, so individually. So a person who renovates or builds a house goes to a sales partner of this company, tells the sales partner, okay, I intend to build a house. I need an entrance door with that dimensions, that surface, that material, that type of handle, that level of security, and so on. I need a window for my kitchen of that size. I need a window for my bedroom of that size. I need a door to the terrace and windows in the living room, and so on. So it gives all the dimensions, what type of surface, what type of color, what type of handle, whether there should be shading and stuff. Okay, so it's a very individual thing. It's piece by piece in, I don't know, millimeters or at least centimeters, how large everything will be. So it's fully specified, fully individual. Okay, the salesperson at the sales partner enters this into a product configurator, which actually is directly connected to the CRM system of the window manufacturer. And the window manufacturer has to put a price tag on this. So the window manufacturer, there's a salesperson there who investigates the specifications and then makes an offer to the sales partner, and the sales partner then makes an offer to the end customer. Okay, so it's actually a B2B thing between the window manufacturer and the sales partner. And what is of course interesting or crucial for the window manufacturer is to know whether or not, or with which probability, this quote, this offer will turn into an order. Okay, and we have developed a model that allows for assessing the probability that a specific order will turn into an order. Did I say order? A specific offer turns into an order, depending on some parameters, including the price. Okay, and that helps the window manufacturer also for determining the right price, but also to plan further. So the system that we developed is already being used for, I guess, 2 years now, in daily routine by the salesperson of the window manufacturer, who deal with all the incoming requests from the sales partners. And the good thing about the whole thing is that we have identified this particular use case to occur in many different companies who make individual offers on individual items, and with a great variety of different things that they sell, and a great variety of offers they make. Okay, so if you always sell the same thing with the same price, it doesn't really, you cannot learn from what happens if you do things differently, right? But if you have a great variety of products, a great variety of offers, and also a great variety of prices, then you can learn what are the influencing factors that make one offer more successful than another, right? And this is a very cool use case in my opinion. And we, as I said, we have identified that to be relevant to many companies. And instead of just implementing one closed and individual system for the window manufacturer, we finally generalized the whole thing in a way that you can apply the core system to many different similar use cases at many different customers at the same time. Okay, it's a cloud-based solution, and you just need to go to a new customer, in this case the customer of the company I'm working for, and you say, okay, tell me about how you make quotes, offers to your customers. Do you have the information in your database whether the quote has led to an order or not? Do you have the dates when the quote has been made and when the decision has been made by the customer? And then we can map any type of data structure they have describing their quotes into our reference model in the application. That means that we can actually configure the system for a new customer in relatively short time, as opposed to the standard procedure that many research and development suppliers in the AI area do, that they implement a new system for every customer. But this is something that doesn't really scale well, and you have to invest a lot of initial effort and money into such an individual solution. And our solution, which is generalized over multiple possible use cases, where it can just adapt to the needs of a new customer by simple configurations and just reading the data, then that's a totally different story. And so far, this concept has proven successful in several different applications already. So there is not only this window manufacturer who was the pilot customer, but there is a manufacturer for very specific large wooden parts. There are office furniture manufacturers interested in this, and there is a logistics supplier who has become a customer, and so on. So this is something that I think has great potential.
This sounds very impressive and extremely interesting. And this touches, I think, two very relevant topics today: dynamic pricing,
yes,
in business in general, and second issue, supply chain optimization, taking into account great level of subjectivity on the part of the customer. And why this use case made such a great impression on me, for two reasons. I related this sort of tools mostly to large businesses and B2C businesses, like large marketplaces. First. Second, you come from Austria, which has built very many big brands and very strong enterprises, but please don't mind, at European level, rather than global. So I assume that this, it depends how you define large enterprises. These clients of yours are probably still family-owned businesses, acting on a rather European level than globally, or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is that it's fascinating that not necessarily the largest, the biggest enterprises covering all the globe can afford and can implement such solutions. This is really great and really impressive.
Maybe I comment on that. Well, I come from machine learning research originally, and in machine learning research, the standard approach has always been, if there is a request by a company, I need to solve a certain use case, then we started implementing it. And actually in machine learning, which is in this case more or less synonymous to artificial intelligence, sloppily speaking, the problem is always that you first have to implement the things and start working with the data until you actually see what the benefit of the whole thing is. You cannot make a prediction beforehand without having tried it, how much benefit you can take from the solution, how good your predictions will be. Okay, because it depends on the quality of data, on the amount of data, and there are no rules of thumb that can tell you immediately, well, I just look at a table of data once or at some statistics and I can immediately say that this will work or not. This is not possible. You have to take the data and you have to work with it exploratively for a reasonable time in order you can optimize the models and to come to a final conclusion how well it works and whether it's worthwhile or not. And this is especially for small and medium-sized companies a great problem, because they do not have the money to invest a lot of initial effort without knowing what the outcome and without knowing what the benefit will be.
Nor they have the amount of data.
They have the data, but they cannot. Well, if you tell to them, okay, give me 30,000 euros and I will tell you whether it will work or not, but 30,000 euros is already more than they can spend on such a solution, right? And this is a showstopper, especially when you work with small and medium-sized companies. I mean, if you mentioned large companies in Austria, probably thinking about Red Bull and Swarovski and
of course, they are Austrian.
Like that. None of those is currently a customer of the company I'm working for. But the window manufacturer, for instance, yes, it's a family-owned company. It's not a medium-sized company anymore. It's actually a large company. Not on a global scale, a large company,
but European.
But on a European scale,
I thought so.
It's a large company. They're very strong in Austria, in Germany, in Italy, in Czech Republic, probably also in Poland.
Probably.
So they're selling everywhere in the circle around Austria. They are quite successful selling their windows and doors. But still, I mean, they do not have hundreds of thousands or millions of euros to spend just in case.
This was what I was getting at.
Yes, and I think for smaller companies it's even worse, right? And I think the solution that we have implemented, or the concept of being able to generalize a use case across many different specific applications, such that only by configurations we can very quickly come to a conclusion without having to write new code. That's something that is especially beneficial for small and medium-sized companies. And in an Austrian context, these are often, as you said, family-owned companies, although this is not necessarily a key feature, but it's correlated in a way with the size of the company.
It was like, let's say my compliment actually to Austrian business environment. It's not that Austria doesn't have global brands, because of course it does. You mentioned too, I would say banks, etc. It's that Austria is very strong with this middle-sized companies. Very well managed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, very, very daring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually when we started the company, we actually thought that well, since there is this AI hype since about 10 to 12 years, it shouldn't be difficult to sell AI competence to companies. And it turned out not to be true, because it's not just that everybody wants AI randomly, they want benefits, okay?
Are we far from a situation when we have, let's say, a ride-hailing company, and a pizzeria or McDonald's is calling a delivery person and handing out to him just, 2 pizzas pepperoni and 2 Hawaii pizza, and the guy just sits on the scooter and doesn't know where to deliver it and to whom. Neither does pizzeria, neither does the applications, but on his way he receives message, you deliver this to here, you deliver this to there, so that we, speed up radically.
Okay, so you mean that a certain pizza is
made before we know
is made just because we know that there will be the demand, and we know that somebody will order it, so we can deliver it immediately. I mean, in this particular case, I actually doubt that, because there is a great variety of different pizzas usually. So when you look at all these pizzerias who are cooperating with delivery services, they usually have 60 to 70 different pizzas on their menu, not counting any special requests like remove garlic or something like that. Okay, so that means it's a wide array of different products. And the customer actually wants the single pizza that is on the menu, right? So you cannot just deliver a similar one, which largely matches the specifications. And so that's one thing. And on the other hand, you have a very short time frame between the production of the pizza and the time when the person wants to eat it. You don't want to have a 1 hour or 2 hour old pizza. So that means that speaking of a single little pizza bakery and a single customer and a single delivery person, I think that the things, how they appear, are relatively stochastic. So there is not much system. You cannot really, maybe argue from another side. You can quite well predict how many pizza diavolo you need per day or per week. But in a certain hour or at a certain minute, this is like chaotic. Yeah, it's like when there is a heavy thunderstorm, you can quite easily predict how many flashes you will have per minute, but you cannot predict a single flash. That's what you would need a crystal sphere to predict the exact time. Yeah, and that's the reason why I think that at least for this little pizza bakeries where there are 3 people, yeah, and a limited radius of customers around them, that the things are too chaotic and too short term to actually make predictions. What I actually think is, if you have a large warehouse where you sell large amounts of products or large amounts of every product, then of course you can start producing stuff quite early, because you know that there will be the demand, right? But if there is a relatively small radius or a small radius of influence of a certain producer, and that also comes with a large variety of products, like on the pizza menu, I doubt that this will ever be possible. Yeah.
Right. I meant if we are maybe coming to a point, maybe pizza wasn't that good example, but how about McDonald's in a big city?
Yeah, that makes much more sense. They have a smaller array of products. Okay, there are probably six or seven burgers. There are 3 sizes of fries. Well, for the soft drinks, you don't even need that because you can simply tap them, right? And if it's like a McDonald's restaurant at a crowded place in a larger city, then they can quite well, I think, estimate how much they will sell on a certain weekday at a certain time, or if there is a certain holiday. So this is a classic sales forecasting topic, and I think that this is not only possible, this is also being used already by some companies. So the sales forecasting is not something that my company has invented. It has been around for quite some time. There are a lot of different software tools available. We are working partly with our own tools, with our own software methods that we have developed to be a little bit better than the others. But there are also standard tools like Profit from Facebook or Merlion from Salesforce, plus all the standard time series methods like ARIMA and so on. So this is a notorious subject, and I think it's currently already being used by at least the better companies who.
But aren't we coming to, let's say, how hyper localized and hyper speed, so to say,
Yeah.
sales forecasting due to AI and due to the AI progress? Sales forecasting has been ever since, but with the progress of AI tools, aren't we coming to what I call hyper fast and hyper speed sales forecasting, which leads us to the point where it's rather the algorithm, maybe that's the right question, who makes the matching instead of selling side and sales side and buy side. And then we have this situation when that the sell side just produces something, whether it be burgers or windows, and doesn't even think who will buy it and when will buy it, because this is all done by algorithms. Probably this is what I was wanted to ask.
Okay, so you're talking about high frequency, very forward-looking sales forecasting. Well, I don't have the broad knowledge to answer that question precisely. I only know that even if it's not that high frequency, it's still very demanding, right? So the burger example is maybe one that is relatively benign in the sense that you can hopefully estimate the quantities quite well, but we have been working with companies where the data are more volatile and where the influences are far more unclear. And it has turned out that even if it's not high frequency, it's very demanding still. Yeah. The standard use cases that you see when you find an internet tutorial about how to do sales forecasting, you always see the air travel data, which is very clearly, there's a very clear trend, there is a very clear seasonality, and the data in the real world don't look like that. So even if it's not high frequency, it's very demanding. And in many cases, the only thing we can do is to be better than the humans who have to make estimations, but the forecasts are not necessarily really perfect. And the high frequency thing would be even one step further. I think if if you have stable quantities, right, and relatively well, general regular patterns appearing in the data, then I think you could do that. If the data are really very volatile, then the speed of the forecasts will make the whole thing even much more complicated. So I guess there are companies who do that or who are trying to do that, but I don't know any specific companies, at least not in the group of customers of the company I'm working for. But I think it sounds like a cool vision, of course, right? It reminds me a little bit of the movie Minority Report, where you want to estimate who will commit a crime before it actually happens. Of course, this is a dystopic vision to sentence people before they have done something. That's not a world I would like to live in. Yeah. But to produce things before they are ordered, and that they are there because you know that somebody will order them, that's not necessarily a bad vision. And I think it could be possible under specific circumstances. On the other hand, as a person who is also thinking about sustainability and environment, my question would be, what happens if the prediction is a little bit false, right? What happens to the pizza, or what happens to the plastic part that is produced and actually nobody will buy it, right?
You're aware that in large fast food chains, most of the food is thrown away.
Yes, and which is not a good thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm. And actually, I've had a conversation with also an AI professor the other day from the US, and he's involved very much into he works in the same area as you, like optimizing sales processes. But this is also applied, and he works on a charity project. It's also applied to humanitarian aid and distributing humanitarian aid,
which is a good thing, yeah.
Which is definitely a good thing. So this optimization of delivery versus pricing can also be understood differently, not only in terms of money. It's a very interesting topic, not only for businesses. What large language models can change into this area of supply chain versus pricing optimization?
That's a very interesting question. I think that I currently don't see any impact on any major impact on the core of sales forecasting or something like that. What I think where large language models could help is to be able to integrate text sources into the sales forecasting process. So let me give you an example. I mean, if you want to predict the sales of burgers, just because we were talking about that example, even though it might be a not so relevant example, but just take it as an example. So the traditional approach would be, I know the sales of burgers in the past. I know how much at which time of day you have on the different weekdays of the year, and you can see the daily patterns, the weekly patterns, the annual patterns, plus some trend and stuff. Yeah, maybe you can integrate also the information that this is a holiday or something like that. Okay, so this is basically based on numbers. These time series are in tables, so there is normally no place for a large language model. Now let's assume the following, that you want to integrate additional information. Okay, maybe something happens close to the restaurant at a certain time. So I don't know, maybe a football match is organized. A final of a certain league is organized in the proximity of the restaurant, or there is I don't know, maybe a demonstration or a celebration on the street or something like that. Okay, and these things might have an influence on the sales of burgers. And in order to integrate such information, you need to be able to analyze free unstructured text and extract the relevant things from any text. And training custom entity recognition models or text interpretation models is always very, very tricky. But the large language models that we have seen in the last few months have shown enormous capabilities for interpreting news texts and so on. Well, for instance, here at the university, we are doing a project with a company who is running a large career portal, so where people can register when they're looking for a job, and where also companies post their job ads, right? And of course, the standard approach would be to match the job-seeking people and the job ads from the companies by regular structured data. But usually the companies do not provide structured data, they provide PDFs with the job ads, right? And you need to extract the relevant information from these job ads, like what is the salary, what is the type of job, what education do you need to have in order to be qualified for the job. These are things that every company writes in a different way, and some write it more directly, some write it more implicitly. And to have a large language model that interprets these texts is of great help, of course, as a pre-processing to the matching process. And the same thing could be done for making all sorts of predictions in the sales area, where you can integrate information from newspapers, from the internet, interpret the text, and create relevant features that could be taken into account by a sales forecasting or opportunity scoring model. So I think that as a source of or as an additional means of tapping text sources, they could be very, very helpful, right? I do not think that it makes sense, or currently it does not make sense, to ask ChatGPT because ChatGPT is not trained for that. It doesn't know the branch. It doesn't know my previous sales numbers. So that's probably not a good thing, and that's not what the large language models are made for. But for understanding text and for creating features or entities from an unstructured text, they're very, very helpful and very powerful. So I think that the models are already now ready to be applied as plugins for creating features for sales forecasting, for instance. I do think so, and probably the things will become even better.
The very last question: what can business learn from academia, and academia from business, in the way how to work
in the artificial intelligence context of course?
Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a quite general question, and I will.
Or maybe in the way how to work.
Yeah. I think what academia should take into account in a better way, and I think that this can be learned from from real applications is that you have to put things on the ground. That some high-level mathematics is, of course, necessary for creating new machine learning or artificial intelligence methods, but there are many details in practice that you also have to take into account, and to get things really to work, and maybe to take compromises in terms of what is scientifically possible versus what is practically feasible. I think this is something that academics should also take into account when they design methods, when they design procedures. And I don't want to emphasize my own role too much here, but I have been working on both sides of the spectrum, right? I've been working on getting things done in a commercial environment, but I've also worked in basic research. So I know both sides, and I think that I can integrate both views to some extent. So that was the first answer. What academics can learn from businesses, that to not only to look for the best science, but also for ways to get things done and to put things on the ground. That's one direction. The other direction, I think, is equally important, that sometimes commercial applications or practical solutions lack a certain rigor, scientific rigor. And if you are only focusing on getting things done, you might not come up with the best solution, because the pressure that you have, that you need to do things quickly and to be successful quickly, might hamper you looking for the best solution, right? So I think that when I worked for the company, there were some times when I felt in the pressure to deliver a not so good solution in very short time. That's maybe good for having a prototype or a demonstrator, or to understand what could be done and what could not be done. But to have a real product that really works is something that you cannot do within really short time. So you really have to think about the basics and analyze everything carefully. And I think that speed can kill, right? I think the most successful applications that we see are ones that have been done with a lot of rigor and with a lot of future-looking attitude, right? What OpenAI has done with ChatGPT and also the other models, that was, well, a great piece of engineering with a lot of rigor. Well, I wouldn't say it's the biggest scientific advance, because the methods from science have just been taken and they engineered a system nicely, but it was very rigorous engineering, what they did. And I think that's how things should be done. Yeah? To only focus on quick wins will not necessarily give you a sustainably good solution that works on a long-term basis and that gives you long-term benefits. So I think that scientific rigor or good engineering on the one hand, and a practically minded attitude to get things done on the other hand, these two things should be combined. And that's the two things that the two worlds can learn from each other. That's my personal opinion on this subject.
Absolutely agree, and it's been very well said.
Thank you.
Ulrich, thank you very much for the conversation. Always a pleasure, an intellectual delight for the audience and myself to listen to a person a wise person, both from the business and academia. As I said, very impressive of what you do in this B2B predictions, and very impressed that not only the largest global companies can do it. And I hope this is not the last conversation on this channel.
Yeah, me neither. Thank you very much. It was absolutely my pleasure. Thanks a lot for the nice atmosphere and for the interesting and challenging questions. And I share your hope that this will not be the last time that we exchange ideas on these subjects. Thank you very much, Marcel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Sherpa Search on Tech. If you have enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our show wherever you listen. Thanks again. The Sherpa Search on Tech podcast is a production of Sherpa Search, an executive search firm specializing in the tech industry, helping hire the right people for expert and managerial positions, and advising how to build and develop long-lasting, high-performing IT teams. If you would like to learn more, reach out to us at maciej.szczerba@sherpasearch.tech or visit our website sherpasearch.tech. See you next time.